Leah Clark's Instagram empire was built on a lie so polished it sparkled brighter than the Pacific sunrise she posed against daily. One anonymous video shattered it all. In Portland, Oregon, where mist clung to the pines and coffee shops buzzed with creatives, Leah was more than a woman. She was a brand. Her 750,000 followers worshipped her curated life. Sunrise yoga, organic smoothies, and a family so photogenic it belonged in a stock photo. At 38, she'd turned faith, wellness, and family values into a six-figure business, with brands clamoring to sponsor her glowing smile. Her posts about authenticity racked up thousands of likes. Her captions dripping with hashtags like #blessed and #sisterhood. But behind the filters, cracks were forming, and her husband, Nate, was starting to notice. Nate, a 40-year-old architect with a quiet intensity, had just finished designing an eco-friendly house for a tech mogul. His hands, calloused from years of drafting and building, were steady, but his heart wasn't. Leah's girls' retreats had become more frequent. Weekends away she described as wine, spa, no big deal. Each time, her suitcase wheels squeaked across their hardwood floor, a sound Nate had come to associate with secrets. "Where to this time?" he asked one evening, leaning against the kitchen counter, his voice casual but his eyes sharp. "Napa," Leah replied, barely glancing up from her phone. "Just a women's retreat. Yoga and soul-searching." Her smile was rehearsed, the kind she used for brand deals, not for him. She pecked his cheek, a gesture that felt more like dismissal than affection, and rolled her suitcase out the door. Their daughter, Emily, 17 and sharp as a tack, sat on the stairs, her knees pulled tight against her chest. Her phone lay beside her, untouched, a rarity for a senior already accepted to college. Her dark eyes followed the front door as it clicked shut, her face unreadable but heavy with something unspoken. "You okay?" Nate asked, pausing at the base of the stairs. Emily nodded slowly, her lips pressed into a thin line, but she didn't speak. Nate let it go, retreating to the kitchen to reheat the chili Emily had refused to eat, citing low vibrations from red meat, a phrase she'd parroted from Leah's wellness posts. He sank into the couch, flipping on a weathered western, the kind where the cowboy rides back into town, knowing trouble waits but facing it anyway. The familiarity of it grounded him, a tether to a world where men didn't question their wives' weekend plans. Leah's life was a performance, and Nate had played his part for 19 years. He'd paid off their craftsman-style home in Portland's Laurel Hills neighborhood, replaced the HVAC when it groaned last summer, and smiled for her Instagram grid when she needed a family man prop. But lately, her retreats felt less like self-care and more like escapes. She'd come home with a glow that wasn't from yoga, her stories vague, her laughter a little too bright. Nate wasn't a jealous man, but he wasn't a fool either. He'd noticed her phone buzzing late at night, her quick glances at the screen when she thought he wasn't looking. "Just the girls," she'd say, waving it off, but her eyes never met his. Emily, though, saw more. She was no longer the little girl who posed for Leah's smoothie bowl photos. She was perceptive, her mind honed by years of navigating her mother's curated world. That night, as Nate watched John Wayne squint into the desert, Emily stayed upstairs, her silence louder than any argument. She wasn't scrolling TikTok or texting friends. She was thinking, piecing together the puzzle of her mother's absences. Leah's latest post, a boomerang of her holding a kale smoothie, captioned "Grateful for my tribe yellow heart #wellness journey," had 12,000 likes, but Emily didn't tap the heart. Instead, she opened her mother's tagged photos, her thumb hovering over a friend's story. Something didn't add up. The next morning, Nate found Emily at the kitchen island, her phone clutched tightly. "She said she's with Aunt Sarah," Emily said, her voice low but steady. Nate frowned, stirring his coffee. "Yeah, she mentioned that." Emily's gaze didn't waver. "I called Sarah yesterday. She's in Florida with Uncle Tom." Their dog died. She turned her phone toward Nate, showing a post. A golden retriever's photo with the caption, "Rest easy, buddy, 2010 to 2025. We loved you." Nate's stomach didn't lurch. It tightened, like a knot pulled taut. "You sure?" he asked, though he knew the answer. Emily nodded, her jaw set. "She's not with Sarah. And I'm pretty sure she's not with the girls." Nate checked Leah's Instagram. Her latest story showed her with a glass of rose, but the background wasn't a spa or a yoga studio. It was a dimly lit kitchen, the kind you'd find in a Napa rental, with music too loud for a meditation retreat. Her hair was messier than her usual polished waves, her smile too loose. Nate's grip on his mug tightened, but he said nothing. Emily slid her phone across the counter. Her hands trembled slightly, betraying the calm in her voice. "She thinks I'm clueless," she said. "But I know how to use AirDrop." The screen was already open to a paused video, sent from an unknown number. Nate's pulse quickened, not from shock but from a cold certainty. This wasn't a spa weekend with candles and affirmations. This wasn't innocent. Emily turned and walked upstairs, her steps deliberate, like a judge leaving the courtroom. Nate stared at the phone, his thumb hovering over the play button. He didn't need to press it to know his world was about to shift. But he did anyway. The video wasn't blurry, and that made it worse. Leah Clark, the woman who'd built an empire on filtered perfection, was caught raw, unscripted, and utterly exposed. In the shaky footage, sent from an unknown AirDrop, she sat in a hot tub, her laughter cutting through the hum of Napa's night air. Nate's thumb froze over the play button, but the image on Emily's phone burned into his mind before he even pressed it. Leah, his wife of 19 years, wasn't alone. The man with her was no stranger to a gym mirror, tanned, chiseled, with the kind of smug confidence that screamed personal trainer or wannabe influencer. His arm draped across Leah's shoulders, casual but possessive, like it had been there before. She wore a red bikini, the one she'd sworn was just for a brand shoot. Her hair loose and wild, not the sleek waves she curated for her grid. Her smile wasn't the practiced one she flashed for yoga reels. It was real, unguarded, the kind Nate hadn't seen since their early days, when love didn't need a caption. Then she leaned in. The kiss wasn't a slip or a peck. It was deep, deliberate, the kind that spoke of familiarity. His hand slid to her waist, fingers digging in like he was claiming something. Leah laughed, a throaty, carefree sound that echoed in Nate's chest like a gunshot. He set the phone down on the kitchen counter, careful as if it might explode. His hands were cold, not trembling but numb, like the blood had drained from them. His wedding ring, looser after a year of stress and skipped meals, clinked faintly against the granite. He looked up, expecting Emily to be watching, but she was gone, her footsteps already fading up the stairs. Her silence was louder than any scream, her disappointment sharper than any accusation. "I know him," she'd said before leaving the room, her voice flat. "He was on her Zoom call last month. Some wellness guy. She took it upstairs when you were at the store." Nate's jaw tightened. Wellness, right? He didn't yell. He didn't throw the phone or storm out to confront the world. Instead, he poured a coffee, black, no sugar, and sat at the dining table. The video still paused on the counter like a loaded gun. The house was quiet, save for the faint hum of the fridge and the distant creak of Emily's door closing. Nate's mind wasn't racing, it was calculating. 19 years of marriage, a daughter who deserved better, a life he'd built brick by brick while Leah posed for likes. And now this, not just a betrayal, but a performance, one she'd rehearsed behind his back. Emily's words gnawed at him. "She thinks I'm clueless." His daughter, 17 and already wiser than most adults, had seen through Leah's facade long before he did. Nate opened his laptop, pulling up Leah's Instagram. Her latest story was still there. A boomerang of her with a wine glass, Captioned Soul Sisters in Napa Yellow Heart #grateful. The kitchen in the background wasn't a spa or a retreat center. It was a rental, with cheap pendant lights and a cluttered counter. The music was too loud for mindfulness, the vibe too chaotic for her usual serenity shtick. He scrolled through her tagged photos, landing on a post from one of her retreat friends. It was a group shot from 2 days ago, all smiles and yoga mats, but Leah was nowhere in it. The caption mentioned early goodbyes, and Nate's gut twisted. She wasn't with her tribe. She was with him. He called Sarah, Leah's sister, to confirm Emily's claim. Sarah's voice was heavy with grief. "Yeah, we're in Florida. Buddy passed last week." Leah knew. She sent flowers. Nate thanked her, hung up, and stared at the wall. No Aunt Sarah. No girls' retreat. Just lies, layered like the filters Leah used to smooth her skin. He thought about calling her, demanding answers, but what would she say? Another excuse? Another smile that didn't reach her eyes? No. Nate wasn't going to beg for the truth. He was going to expose it. He scrolled through his contacts, stopping at a name saved as Jake W. Jake Wilson wasn't just a PR guy, he was a fixer, the kind who could bury a scandal or birth one with a single email. Years ago, Nate had helped Jake squash a nasty story about a land deal gone wrong, saving his client's reputation. In return, Jake had given him a number and a promise. "If you ever need to burn someone quietly, call me." Nate dialed. Jake answered on the second ring, his voice dry, like he was already halfway through a cigar. "Nate, to what do I owe the pleasure?" he asked, a smirk audible in his tone. "You still got pull in digital media?" Nate said, his voice steady but low. A pause just long enough for the flick of a lighter. "Got proof," Jake replied. Nate glanced at Emily's phone, still glowing with the paused video. "My daughter's got a camera," he said, "and my wife's got no shame." Another pause, this one thick with calculation. "Send it over," Jake said. "This could be fun." Nate texted the video to himself from Emily's phone, her trust in him unspoken but absolute. He didn't crop it, didn't blur the guy's face. Every detail needed to be seen. The fake crystals on the hot tub's awning, Leah's ringless hand, the way her laugh cut through the night. He forwarded it to Jake. Within a minute, Jake texted back, "Holy hell, Nate, this is dynamite. Slow leak or full detonation." Nate took a sip of his coffee, now cold, and typed one word, "Detonation." Upstairs, Emily sat on her bed, her phone dark but her mind racing. She'd known something was off for months. Her mom's late-night texts, her rushed retreats, the way she'd started locking her phone. But seeing it, that video, was like a punch she hadn't braced for. She didn't cry, didn't scream. She just sat, her knees pulled up, her hoodie zipped like armor. She thought about the years she'd spent posing for her mom's photos, playing the perfect daughter for a brand that wasn't hers. And now the world was about to see the truth. She wasn't sure if she felt betrayed or relieved. Back in the kitchen, Nate closed his laptop. The Western still played on the TV, the cowboy now facing a showdown, his hand steady on his gun. Nate didn't feel like a hero, but he felt something else, resolve. Leah was still out there, probably laughing in some stranger's arms, thinking her secrets were safe. She had no idea her empire was already crumbling, pixel by pixel. Jake was already at work, scrubbing the video for clarity, sharpening faces, stripping away any chance of, "That's not me." By dawn, the first sparks would fly, and Leah's perfect facade would burn. Leah Clark's empire didn't just crack, it detonated. By 2 a.m., the video Nate sent to Jake Wilson was no longer a secret but a spark in a digital wildfire. In Portland, Nate sat in his darkened kitchen, the glow of his laptop casting sharp shadows across his face, watching the first embers catch. Jake hadn't wasted a second. A media fixer with a Rolodex of shady contacts, he'd scrubbed the video to surgical precision, stabilized the frame, sharpened Leah's face mid-laugh, and amplified the sound of her carefree giggle. There was no room for denial, No blurry alibi. No, that's not me. The hot tub's cheap crystal awning glinted in the footage. Leah's ringless hand pressed against the stranger's chest, her red bikini strap slipping just enough to scream reckless. Jake sent Nate a thumbnail at 1:43 a.m. Leah, mid-kiss, her eyes half closed, the man's hand on her hip like he owned her. "This is gold," Jake texted. "You sure about detonation?" Nate didn't hesitate. "Light it up," he replied. Jake seeded the video to 2 gossip accounts, small but ravenous, the kind that thrived on catching influencers with their halos askew. By 2:15 a.m., the first post went live. Family values influencer caught in Napa hot tub. Not so zen after all. The freeze frame showed Leah's laugh, her bikini strapped down, the man's smirk. A pulled quote from her own podcast sat beneath it, dripping irony. "Your integrity is your brand. Lose that, you lose everything." The comments exploded instantly. LMAO. Wellness? More like messiness. Family first, huh? Unless it's a hot tub party. Hashtags sprouted like weeds. Hashtag Napa Nightmare. Hashtag Fraudfluencer. Hashtag Leah Lies. Nate didn't sleep. He scrolled X, watching the ripple become a tsunami. By 3:17 a.m., smaller accounts with cartoon avatars were reposting the video, their captions gleeful. "Caught in 4K. Leah Clark's retreat goals." At 3:45, bigger players joined: pop culture blogs, TikTok stitchers, and meme pages with millions of followers. One TikTok layered Leah's hot tub laugh over her old reel preaching. "Guard your marriage, queens." The contrast so brutal it hit 50,000 likes in an hour. Another showed her podcast clip, "Loyalty isn't negotiable," split-screened with her kissing the stranger, a cartoon crown falling off her head. The internet wasn't just watching. It was feasting. Emily, upstairs, wasn't asleep either. Her phone buzzed with notifications from group chats, friends forwarding the same clips now tearing through her mother's brand. She didn't open them. Instead, she sat cross-legged on her bed, staring at a framed photo on her nightstand. Her, Nate, and Leah at a beach bonfire 3 years ago, before the followers, before the brand deals. Leah's smile back then was real, not angled for a lens. Emily's chest tightened, not with tears but with a quiet, searing clarity. She wasn't just a betrayed daughter. She was a witness to a lie her mother had sold to the world. She muted her phone and turned the photo face down. By 4:38 a.m., 2 major gossip sites dropped full articles, embedding the video with scathing commentary. Leah Clark's Napa retreat turned scandalous. One headline read, citing anonymous sources, Jake's handiwork, who described Leah's increasingly secretive getaways. The other, blunter. Influencers' family values go down the drain in hot tub hookup. Comments poured in like acid. Always knew she was fake. Preaching faith while cheating? Iconic. Her poor kid. That last one stung Nate. Not for Leah but for Emily, who didn't deserve to be collateral damage in her mother's collapse. Leah, still in Napa, was oblivious, likely curled up in a rented king-size bed, dreaming of her next sunrise yoga post. At 7:03 a.m., she uploaded her daily story. Herself cross-legged on a wooden deck, eyes closed, the Napa Hills glowing behind her. "Morning flow with my sisters," she captioned it. "Grateful for this space to reflect yellow heart #blessed." She tagged 3 retreat friends, unaware they'd left early, their own stories showing them back in Portland. For 7 minutes, her bubble held. Then the comments hit. "Peaceful vibes, Leah. But who's the hot tub guy?" Thinking face 1 read. "Family queen living her truth in Napa. LOL #Leah Lies," said another. By 7:20, her comment section was a war zone. Wellness? More like wreckness. "Is this the sisterhood you kissed?" Screenshots of the video spread, stitched with her old posts about sacred vows. A meme paired her hot tub giggle with the caption, "When your brand is faith but your vibe is feral." Her DMs detonated. Hundreds of messages, some mocking, some furious, others sending the video back like a slap. Leah's phone, wherever she was a ticking bomb she hadn't yet noticed. Nate sipped his coffee, now lukewarm, watching the carnage unfold on his laptop. He didn't post, didn't comment, didn't like a single clip. He just observed, his face a mask of calm while his mind churned. Emily came downstairs at 8:10, her phone in hand, scrolling with clinical detachment. "She's trending," she said, her voice flat, like she was reporting a stock market dip. "Number 6 on TikTok. Hashtag fraudfluencer Leah." Nate nodded, his jaw tight. He didn't need to say it. They both knew this was just the beginning. At 8:17, his phone lit up. Leah's name, her profile picture beaming. Her arms around Nate and Emily, the perfect family she'd monetized. He let it ring once, twice, 3 times, then swiped to decline. If she wanted to talk, she could face the millions now rewriting her story. Her empire wasn't just bleeding. It was hemorrhaging, and Nate held the match that started the blaze. Upstairs, Emily opened her laptop, not to watch the videos but to draft an essay for her college application. Her topic, truth in a world of facades. She didn't mention her mother, but every word was a reckoning. Leah Clark's world wasn't just burning. It was ash before she even woke up. By noon, her name was a punchline, her brand a carcass picked clean by the internet's vultures. In Portland, Nate leaned against the kitchen counter, his coffee cold, watching the final nails hammer into the coffin of his wife's curated life. Leah's phone must have been a war zone by the time she saw the notifications. Her Instagram, once a shrine to wellness and faith, was now a digital gallows. Comments on her sunrise yoga post had spiraled into the thousands, each one sharper than the last. Reflecting on that hot tub sesh, Leah, smirking face, sisterhood vibes, but where's your wedding ring? TikTok was merciless, stitching her guard your heart sermon with the video of her kissing the stranger, her laugh looping like a mocking soundtrack. A meme account with 2 million followers posted a fake wellness retreat bingo card. Adultery, public humiliation, and hashtag grateful for lies were checked off. Her DMs were a deluge. Fans turned foes, strangers demanding explanations, and trolls sending the hot tub clip back with captions like, "Namaste, Queen." Leah's empire, built on likes and sponsorships, was crumbling pixel by pixel. Nate didn't need to imagine her panic. He saw its aftermath when she stumbled through the side door at 2:15 p.m. No suitcase, no influencer tote, just Leah, wrecked. Her face was a battlefield. Mascara streaked like war paint, foundation cracked around a mouth that had clenched for hours. Her hair, usually a glossy cascade, was knotted in a frantic bun, strands escaping like rats from a sinking ship. She froze in the doorway, eyes darting like a cornered animal's, searching for Nate, for Emily, for any lifeline. Honey?" she called, her voice a wobbly attempt at her usual sing-song. The house answered with silence, heavy and unyielding. She dropped her purse, a $900 designer bag that hit the floor like a brick, and half stumbled toward the stairs. Her sandals slapped the hardwood, a clumsy contrast to her barefoot Instagram grace. At Emily's door, she twisted the knob. Locked. Then she saw it. A single sheet of notebook paper taped at eye level, Emily's handwriting sharp and unforgiving. "You betrayed us both. Don't act like nothing happened." No emojis, no softness, just truth carved in ink. Leah's knees buckled. She slid down the wall, shoulders smacking the plaster, her sob ripping through the hallway. Not grief, but the raw terror of realization. She hadn't just lost followers or a brand deal. She'd lost her daughter. Nate watched from the kitchen, his reflection in the glass cabinet doors cold and still. He didn't move, didn't speak. On the table sat a manila folder, its black marker label stark, "Petition for divorce on grounds of adultery." Next to it, an emergency request for sole custody of Emily, signed and filed. Tucked inside was a letter, typed, formal, lethal in its simplicity. Leah, I won't raise our daughter in a house of lies and performance. You had your stage. This is my exit. I'm here to protect Emily, to reclaim the life you deemed too ordinary. Goodbye. No love, no venom, just Nate's name, final as a slammed door. Leah tried to salvage her empire before coming home. At 9:12 a.m., she'd called her management team, the stylists and strategists who'd molded her into Instagram's holy trinity. Family, faith, wellness. No one answered. Her agent left her on read. Her PR rep, who once flew cross-country to fix a bad outfit, texted, "We're reevaluating our client roster. Translation, you're toxic." Leah emailed, begging for a crisis meeting, offering to clarify the optics. Silence. Her sponsors didn't just pull back, they ran. At 11:15 a.m., her biggest partner, a clean skincare brand, posted, "We stand for authenticity. Our relationship with Leah Clark is terminated." The post racked up 34,000 likes, comments cheering, "Good riddance. Family values don't include hot tubs." She tried a TV appearance, a last-ditch effort to spin the narrative. At 10 a.m., she sat on a morning show couch, stuffed into a pastel blouse that screamed desperation, clutching a mug with "Believe in Yourself" scrawled on it. The host's smile was predatory, honed for blood. Leah started her script. "We all make mistakes, but they don't define us. It's about healing, moving forward." Her voice shook, but she pressed on, eyes glassy with practiced remorse. Then the host cut in, shuffling papers. "We received a statement from your husband's attorney." Leah froze, her smile cracking. Care to comment? She staged a marriage. She monetized trust. Now she can influence herself. The studio went silent. A few claps from the audience. Quiet, final, like dirt on a grave. Leah nodded, a jerky motion, and the host pivoted to the next segment, erasing her mid-sentence. Nate and Emily watched the broadcast from his office, her perched on the chair's arm, her face unreadable but her eyes like steel. "She's done," Emily said. Not cruelly but factually, like noting a storm had passed. Nate nodded, swirling his coffee. At 2:47 p.m., Leah dragged herself downstairs, her steps heavy, her face a ruin. She stopped dead when she saw the folder. Her hands trembled as she lifted it, the paper crinkling under her grip. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came. Nate stood, arms crossed, saying nothing. Emily stayed upstairs, her door still locked. Leah was alone, her stage dark, her audience gone. The internet hadn't slowed down. By afternoon, #fraudfluencer was trending top 5 on X, with memes mocking Leah's healing journey. Her skincare sponsor deleted every post she'd ever made for them, as if she were a virus to be purged. A TikTok with 200,000 likes looped her podcast line, "If he cheats, you walk." Beside her hot tub kiss, a crown tilting off her head. Leah's followers, once rabid, were fleeing. Her count dropped by 100,000 in hours. She was no longer an influencer. She was a cautionary tale. Leah Clark's empire was gone, reduced to a hashtag and a cautionary tale. Her final act was a whisper, not a bang. A plain Instagram post, white background, black text, "Taking time offline to heal. Please respect our privacy." Yellow heart, no filters, no hashtags, no comments allowed. In Portland, Nate closed the app, his thumb steady, his heart lighter than it had been in years. The post flatlined. Leah's once adoring followers, now down to half their peak, had either fled or turned feral, their loyalty as fleeting as her brand. Her story views, which once hit 6 figures by lunch, barely cracked triple digits. Her wellness sisters, the influencers she tagged in countless retreat photos, had unfollowed by morning, their silence louder than any public denouncement. Leah wasn't trending anymore. She was fading, a name tied to scandal, not inspiration. Nate didn't gloat. He didn't need to. The truth had done its work, sharp and clean, like a well-aimed arrow. He and Emily had moved on, literally. By spring, they'd left the Laurelhurst house, its hardwood floors and curated memories too heavy with Leah's lies. Their new home, a modest bungalow in Portland's Alberta Arts District, was smaller but theirs, free of Instagram angles. Nate, now 41, had launched his own architectural firm, designing homes that prioritized function over flash, real spaces for real lives. Emily, 18 and a freshman at Reed College, was studying journalism, her essays already sharp with a voice that cut through noise. She wanted to tell stories that mattered, not sell them. They were rebuilding not for likes but for themselves. Leah's fall wasn't just digital. It was total. Her last brand deal, a local organic supplement company that had clung to her through the initial storm, cut ties hours after her disastrous TV appearance. Their statement was curt. "We believe in authenticity. Our collaboration with Leah Clark is over." The post's 40,000 likes dwarfed her final plea for privacy. Her management team, once her lifeline, had ghosted her. Her PR rep's final text, "Good luck," was a kiss-off, not a farewell. Even her Napa retreat friends, the soul sisters she'd leaned on for clout, deleted their tagged photos, erasing her from their feeds like a bad dream. She tried one last time to reclaim her narrative. A week after her return, she posted a YouTube video. No makeup, no ring light, just her in a bare room, voice cracking as she mumbled about accountability and growth. The comments were disabled, but X didn't care. Screenshots of her puffy-eyed apology circulated with captions like, "Too late, Queen," and "Healing Journey to Nowhere." The video got 2,000 views, a fraction of her old reels, and no one bought her redemption arc. Leah wasn't a phoenix rising. She was a footnote, her name synonymous with #fraudfluencer. Emily showed Nate the post on their back porch, the sun dipping low, painting the yard in golden hues. She held her phone out, her expression neutral. "She's done," she said. Not with anger, but with the calm of someone who'd closed a book. Nate nodded, his coffee mug warm in his hands. "She posted about us like we were props," Emily added, her voice soft but steady. She tucked her knees into the wicker chair, her hair loose, no trace of the polished teen from Leah's grid. "Not anymore," Nate said. "You're the real story now." Emily didn't smile, but she leaned against his shoulder, the weight of her trust heavier than any words. Leah called Nate one last time, days after the divorce papers were served. He let it ring, her profile picture, her arms around him, and Emily, a lie frozen in pixels, staring up from the screen. When he finally answered, her voice was raw, broken. "Nate, it was one mistake," she choked out. "One night." He closed his eyes, the cold resolve he'd carried for weeks settling deeper. "Emily filmed it," he said, his tone even. "You lied to us both. Don't insult us with mistake." Silence stretched thick and final across the line. He hung up. No goodbye, just a click that echoed like a door locking forever. Leah's next moves were predictable, desperate. She tried a new Instagram account under a pseudonym, posting vague quotes about resilience. It gained 200 followers, mostly bots, before she deleted it. Rumors swirled on X that she'd moved to Sedona, chasing a rebrand as a spiritual coach, but no one cared enough to confirm. Her name faded from trends, replaced by the next scandal, the next fallen star. She'd betrayed not just Nate and Emily, but the altar she'd built for her followers. And the crowd had no mercy for a false prophet. Nate and Emily didn't look back. Their evenings were quiet now, spent on the porch or at Emily's college open mics, where she read essays that made strangers nod in recognition. Nate's firm took on a pro bono project, designing a community center for single parents, a nod to the life he'd reclaimed. One night, as they watched the city lights from their yard, Emily spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Do you think she'll ever get it? What she lost? Nate took a sip of coffee, the bitterness familiar but fleeting. Doesn't matter, he said. We're not her audience anymore. They sat in silence, the kind earned after a storm, when the air is clear and nothing's left to prove. Leah could chase hashtags in Sedona or Costa Rica, but she couldn't rewrite this ending. The truth hadn't just gone viral, it had set Nate and Emily free. And in that freedom, they found something Leah never could. A life unfiltered, real, and wholly their own.